Alright, hello everyone and welcome to WWE Discussion. I'm your host of WWE Enthusiast, Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Monday Night Raw, August 28th, 2023 edition. And it might not have felt like it, but this was the go-home show for the Red Brand ahead of Payback. The company seemingly has been struggling in building up the card for Saturday's premium live event, including a failure to capitalize on the hype surrounding Gunther versus Chad Gable for the Intercontinental title. However, top names, as they usually do, continue to deliver. Might not have been the best episode of Raw, but it set the stage for some important decisions to be made at Payback. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with, well, let's just talk about Payback. It is a secondary show, but just because it is a secondary show doesn't mean it should look or feel like one. But ultimately, that's kind of what it's shaping out to be. But as we all know, the talent, they come through, they will deliver. So WWE has been on a great run with her premium live events in 2023, but Payback could be the night that breaks that streak. The company has taken a big risk by leaving some big stories off the card. The Bloodline is absent, which is quite strange given the what happened at SummerSlam with Jimmy and Jay. Also, you have Raw's hottest angle, hottest story with Gunther versus Gable, and which continues to deliver the best moments on Raw. But that rematch for the Intercontinental title will be happening next Monday instead of at Payback. And apparently, Gunther, if he wins that match next week, he will break the record. Which, honestly, I don't know why they're just not saving that match until after Gunther breaks the record. Let Gable be the one to dethrone Gunther. Let him have a run with the title. I don't know why that's not happening or why that's seemingly not in consideration. The SmackDown Women's Division has no announced matches for the card despite some growing tension between Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. And while there certainly are some exciting matches on the card, and certainly some matches worth tuning in to watch, ultimately this is just feeling like a filler event, a secondary show. It is unlikely any title changes, any titles will change hands, but given that Judgment Day is on the poster and they're pretty much they have like 3 of their members competing at the show, expect WWE to rely on them to carry the night in terms of high profile angles. Then you have The Miz versus LA Knight, which is a match at Payback, and I think at the very least you could say that Miz has been a great rival for Knight, and WWE has truly accepted Knight's popularity as of late. Then again, it's not like they really had much of a choice given how over he is. He is a future top star for the company. However, the stories have not yet been set for him to, well, compete at the top of the card, compete for titles. In the meantime, WWE has called an audible and pitted him against The Miz. And while Miz facing new and returning stars is certainly nothing new with him, you think about who you compare the megastar with. Miz fits pretty well. After Knight's promo on SmackDown, the A-lister would respond with his own retort on Monday night, complete with his opponent's attire and pretty good voice duplication. Not quite LA Knight, obviously, but still pretty close. This viewed is showing what Miz does best, highlighting how he can rise to the level of his competition on the mic and in the ring. And while Knight versus Miz is unlikely to be a show stealer, it will be an important next step in building the megastar as a household name. And you have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, and I think an argument can be made that Nakamura is indeed ready to win the World Heavyweight Championship, that the time is now, the moment is right, whatever you want to say. And honestly, when you look at the Payback Premium Live event, if there is a big moment to be had, it would probably be the World Heavyweight Championship changing hands. Seth Rollins has been great as a title holder, and you would like to see him have, a lengthy run, but you could also make the argument that he doesn't need the gold anymore, especially if his back injury is what he says it is, that's an actual injury. Whereas Nakamura, you can make the argument that he would need the belt more. Nakamura looks more dangerous than ever, cutting promos in Japanese that underline his ruthless intentions. The time is seemingly right, and there may not be another chance for Nakamura here if it doesn't happen here. Not saying that it would never happen, but this is probably as good a time as any. And if it doesn't happen now, when does it happen? So if Nakamura doesn't win, it's likely Damian Priest will cash in the Money in the Bank contract. Maybe not at Payback, but expect it to happen relatively soon. And if Nakamura loses and if Priest slides right in and takes the title, that pretty much leaves Nakamura outside the title picture once again. This could be the moment to crown a great veteran who has yet to have a world title run and certainly is in a good position to have the best run of his career with the world title in his possession. And Rollins, without a title, with the title, he's a top star. Nakamura hasn't reached his full potential because, again, he hasn't had that world title run, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. The time is seemingly right for him to finally reach his full potential and have that world title run. And then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest for the tag team titles. It's going to be a Steel City street fight, so that should be a pretty fun match right there. And Rhea Ripley talked about how, she's going to have to make some changes to the group if Payback doesn't quite go their way, if Priest and Balor lose. And that certainly does raise an interesting question of what will change with the group if they lose. Does Balor leave? Does Priest leave? Judgment Day has dominated Raw for a while, but not everything has clicked into place yet, and that can change at Payback. WWE is clearly showing that this group is struggling to find success with both Priest and Balor together, and perhaps a breakup will come by the end of Payback should they lose this match. In many ways, Saturday's event could be the night of the Judgment Day. I don't see why I wouldn't. Again, they're all in the poster for the show. If Balor and Priest do win the titles, every member of the group would have gold. It's certainly a good way to continue to have them be that dominant faction that they are on Raw. However, if you watch the show, it indicates that actually Balor and Priest are going to lose, and ultimately if this group does suffer another loss, something's got to change. Otherwise you risk kind of just ruining the whole group. And if Balor leaves, expect him to pair off with JD McDonough. Now whether or not they form their own group, I don't know. Probably not necessary for them to form their own group. They could certainly be a great tag team in their own right. But the thing about pairing them as a tag team is that you pair them as a tag team, but you just had Balor lose to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the tag team titles, so you'd have some work to do to try to build those two up as a tag team. But if Priest leaves, he'll be just fine. He still has the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he can become a world champion all on his own. So interesting to see what changes. Perhaps Priest leaves, and then Balor slots JD McDonough in to the Judgment Day instead. I've heard that one floated around. That one would certainly make the most sense. Yeah, in conclusion, not the greatest episode of Monday Night Raw. Probably could have done a better job of building up the Payback Premium Live event, but like I said, I don't think it'll be a terrible show. I just don't think it'll quite live up to what the other Premium Live events have been this year. But talent will deliver, so expect still a solid show. And hopefully we can wrap up some storylines, finish off Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus, finish off Owens and Zayn versus the Judgment Day, and then do something different with the Judgment Day. Give Knight a signature singles victory on a Premium Live event stage, and then just kind of launch him from there. And maybe even give Nakamura his first world title run. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of WWE Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button.